Hey everybody, today I want to talk about slowing down and understanding what you're doing when you're working on fitting your pants. And specifically today, we're going to look at the crotch. In front of me, I have a set of legs here and I've put them together so we can see the crotch shape. And I want to just share a couple different things that came up during my pants fitting classes in the recent past, because it's important to understand what you're doing when you're adjusting your pattern and what it affects. So the first thing I want to talk about here is, you'll notice, and I'm just going to take a piece of paper and I'm actually going to put it back here and I'm going to tape it so I can show you something about the front crotch. Now, I've talked a lot about the angle of the center front edge, and I'm just going to draw in the angle we currently have. All right, so that's the shape of our crotch right now. You can see that it's angling back or away from center front. That is the perfect angle if you have a defined waist. And I've talked about this in previous videos, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with that. But if you need to adjust your center front edge because you're more of a rectangle and you want your center front to be straight, the way you can do it is you can extend out your waistline like this, and you can straighten out the center front edge so it's parallel to the grain line or your balance line. So let me just draw the balance line in as well. There's my balance line, and then I can straighten this out and make it parallel to center front. This is better for someone who has a rectangle shape because it's getting rid of the dart in the middle of your center front pants. If I left it angled, when you sewed it up, you would get a dart and it would cause the side seam to pop up and sit on your defined waist. This is how you can straighten it out. Now, in one of my classes, my student suggested trying to straighten it out from the bottom of the crotch. So for example, she was like, why can't we just do this and straighten it out? And you can see this also straightens it. So if I just draw myself a line like this, right, and then have it go like that, that does straighten it out as well. You can see the silver line. But what are we doing when we straighten it out from the bottom? We are adding more inside room. So all of this silver that I'm filling in now is extra room that we've added inside your pants. So if you feel like you need more depth front to back, and depth is, just to draw it for you, your depth is what's going on from here to here, right? Like, so from here to here. So wherever that is and whatever that is, that's your depth. So if you needed more depth, scooping out the front crotch and making it like this would be a good move. Filling it in like this is getting rid of the negative space or some of the depth, because you're closing this area up a little bit. Think about what you want to accomplish in the end. Is it just bringing the center front straight, or is it creating more room over here? Now, filling it in here is going to give you more length across here as well. So you may need to take it off over here, right? If it was already fitting. That's one thing I want to share with you. The same thing can happen when you're trying to decide what to do in the back. Now, in the back, and I'm just going to cut this off now so it looks nice and neat. Cut it off like this. Okay, and you'll notice as I'm working with my crotch, I always need to include or consider what's going on in the back. I can't adjust my front without considering the back. So for example, let's say I wanted to raise my crotch a little bit in the front. Let's say it was a little bit too low. So I'm just going to stick some paper here. Okay, and I'm just going to extend my inseam, and I'm just going to fill that in a little bit like this. Okay, so I've raised my crotch. All right, you have to remember that if you raise the front crotch, the back crotch is still going to be down here, right? So you have to make sure you're also adjusting your back crotch, because your inseams have to stay the same length so they sew together. So if you're adjusting for, if you're adjusting your crotch curve, it's important to keep those together so you could also, get a smooth transition front to back, and you could do something like that. And now you've adjusted the back a like amount, and you have a smooth transition front to back. So I could just cover this or fill this in to show you. So that could be your new shape like that. All right, and then I'm just going to cut that back off because I want to keep this looking nice and neat. All right, so the same thing can be said about the back crotch. If you want to create less bagginess in your back view, you could extend your center back seam out at the waist and then draw a straighter angle here like that. Okay, and this is a better angle for someone who has a flat behind, let's say, because what are we doing? We are straightening the center back edge to make less room inside, which accommodates less fullness in the back. Now, what if you needed more fullness, or if you're looking at this and you wanted to straighten it out, you could also straighten it out from the bottom, just like I did in the front. I could actually come over here and scoop this out and straighten it like this. So by bringing this back and straightening it out, now you can see it's also straight, but I've dug a bigger hole down here, right? And I've created more negative space. So the crotch angle is straighter because I moved this part out to be more, parallel, but I've created a bigger space inside. And what can happen is if you do it over here to straighten it out, and then you put your pants on and they look baggy in the back, what is it likely that you're going to want to do? You're going to likely want to sew deeper into that center back seam to pull that fabric out across your behind. But what are you doing if you do that? You're actually creating even more space inside your pants, and it's going to throw the drape of your leg off. So if you put these pants on, now that let's cut this like this, so we straightened it out by doing this, right? So we've got that nice straight edge, but it's longer. We've increased the depth, so now the depth goes to here. So we've increased the depth, and it seems too baggy in the behind. You might be tempted to sew a little bit deeper here. And what are you ultimately doing? You're ultimately creating even a bigger hole to sit in. It just creates a situation where the fabric is not going to hang nicely from your waist. So you want to think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what else is affected when you do it. So those are some things with the crotch. The last thing I want to share with you here is if you needed to lengthen or shorten the back rise, let's say, and it could be the front or the back. I'm going to use the back here though. I'm going to go ahead and draw my center balance line in like this. Okay. And then if I need to, let's say I want to shorten the rise, and I'm going to do it from down here because this is a way to shorten. Okay, so I'm going to slash here, make a pivot, and if I put this down, you can see I'm shortening the rise, but I'm also straightening out the center back edge, right? So let's say I need it to be shorter, but I also needed that negative space, like I needed the angle. You can shorten it this way, and I'm just going to put a piece of tape here. Okay, but you want to notice now the angle has changed. So if I want to reposition that, I could actually go ahead and put the angle back. And also, I would have to add it back over here. Okay, so I'm plussing over here and I'm minusing over there. Right. After you put it back and you get rid of this. Okay, so I'm getting rid of that. I've added it here. Then you're going to reestablish your grain line from below the adjustment like this. And you can see I still have a similar amount of space between the top of my balance line and my center back edge because I put it back. Now, just to share, here's another back leg. And I'm going to draw my balance line here. All right, if I wanted to lengthen the back the same way, and I cut here, made a pivot, and I spread it, what's happening is I'm actually tipping the grain line in the opposite direction. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a piece of tape here. Okay, and let's just fill in this wedge. Okay, so I've created this wedge, but what's happened is if I put the grain line back, you can see that now my grain line is closer to the center back. So again, I could put back what I did in terms of the angle, like this. And I can take it off over here. So in this case, I would be sort of taking off from my side what I added. Okay, so here I'm taking it off when I added over here. All right, so I just wanted to share some things about the crotch today that, you know, you need to sort of pay attention to what you're doing, and, you know, you want to look and see what it is that you're trying to change, and then pick the way to change it that is not going to affect the rest of the pattern, or realize that if you make a change, you can put back the part that you changed that's not affecting what you needed. So for example, if I needed more length here, but I also needed to keep this relatively straight, after I slashed and spread it and sort of pushed it this way, right, I put it back by reestablishing the side seam and the center back and the grain line. So that's not going to throw your pattern off. So I just wanted to spend a few minutes today sharing a few things like this that can help you when you're doing your pants fitting and maybe reduce the amount of circling around that happens. You know, when you adjust something, other things are affected. So take your time and think about what you're doing and how you're doing it and what it's affecting. So I hope this is helpful. It's just a little, you know, I just wanted to share a little something that was happening in my classes, my pants fitting classes, that might help you. If you have any questions or comments, please post those below and I will help you there. If you're enjoying my content, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel because it helps me grow. I want to thank everybody for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day.